Welcome back. Let us observe these classroom situations. Here's the first one.
Classmates, okay, listen, as I pronounce something. We meet tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Be sure you brought your assignments to finish, okay?
Wasn't it quite disturbing? A bit. Especially if the student is already in high school. Although the message was clear, the forms used were inaccurate. As you saw, the errors in form elicited some negative reactions from the listeners. Let's change the situation.
Classmates, I would like to make an announcement. Let's meet tomorrow at 4 to discuss our assignment.
Okay, fine.
Does that make you feel better? Of course. It follows that teaching for accuracy is a useful goal of language instruction as it improves communication. Teaching and testing grammar should not at all be ignored. Testing grammar can be viewed in two ways. First is the structural view, that is, testing one's awareness of the grammatical features or the structures of the language. The grammar test then calls for the student's ability to manipulate the language structures, be it on a phonological level, morphological, lexical, or syntactic level. This is how most of the standardized or teacher-made grammar tests we see have been constructed. They are done by requiring either of the two testing formats, recognition or production of the correct forms of a language in sentences. Thus, it can be said that a traditional grammar assesses one's ability to recognize or produce the correct forms of a language. This is also referred to as language usage. The focus or the goal is always on the accuracy or the well-formedness of the language structures and not on textual meaning. Quite often, the structures are presented using decontextualized items. That is, the target grammatical features are tested using isolated sentences. Here is an example of the contextualized items. Directions. Choose the correct word or words that will complete each sentence. Number 1, how blank money do you have? A lot. B, much of. C, much. D, many. Number 2, there are blank students in the social hall. A, much. B, much of. C, many. D, many of. Notice the test directions in this test. They call for the correct word that should go into its blank. This is clear that they are after correctness of form. Observe also the stem of the items. The incomplete sentences are not at all related to each other. Each item is independent of the other. This is what I mean when I say that the items are decontextualized. They do not form a cohesive text. The communicative view in testing grammar considers grammatical competence as going beyond well-formedness of structures in sentences. It utilizes the expanded meaning of grammar to consider the communicative function that the grammatical items perform with the text to create meanings. It will follow then that the context in which the target grammatical forms will appear is in a discourse or text. This, by the way, is on a higher level of analysis. Grammatical accuracy is not the goal per se, but is seen as being an integral part of communication. As such, testing grammar calls for the student's ability to complete a communicative tasks in a given context using the appropriate language codes. The task does not focus solely on forms, but on being able to use the appropriate forms to convey meaning. This is also known as task-based approach to grammar testing. Let me show you an example of a communicative task for testing grammar. Situation. You are the news editor of your school paper. One of the students has sent you a news article for publication, and the article is not well written. Task. Without changing the ideas, rewrite the article on the answer sheet provided so it will be well written when it appears on your school paper. Notice how different this is from the first example. Instead of isolated sentences that the students have to complete, you see a task which the students have to perform. In a short while, we shall try to illustrate further these two approaches in testing grammar. Don't go away.